And welcome back to Subculture After Dark. Well, we've got a band coming up right now on the show that has got so much going on at the moment. We're going to take a listen to the brand new track from Orpheus Omega in just a moment, but we're also going to chat to Chris from the band about this tour that's coming up with Triple Kill and also the great new EP that they've got out called Portraits as well. So without any other further ado, welcome to the program, Chris.
How you going, dude?
I am going really, really well, mate. We are so excited about this tour coming up. You guys on the road with Triple Kill. How did the idea for that come about?
A number of things. We try to avoid touring with Triple Kill because we just can't stand them, but we also can't seem to get away from them. No, we had a plan years ago, really, sort of just after that sort of lockdown period in Victoria, where we were going to do a whole East Coast tour, and just due to like constant border closures and stuff, we ended up having to scrap the shows that weren't in Victoria. So we did a few shows in Victoria together, which was really fun. It had such a blast of a time with those guys always. Then we went out on the road with Bellacore later that year, which was awesome. And then sort of this year when we were piecing together, like, well, we want to get back out and do these shows of our own, And then when it came down to who do we want to tour with, it was like, well, it has to be Triple Kill, like we have to do this tour with them. And those guys are releasing a new album as well, so everything kind of just lined up, and it was like, well, let's just make this whole thing a party and do it together. So it worked out really, really well, I think.
And I love that you guys have included places like Ballarat and Canberra on that tour as well, because I grew up being someone into metal in a country town, and you don't very often get to see bands come through town. So do you always find those gigs kind of exciting because the crowds aren't used to a gig every week?
Yeah, 100%. And like, I love the main city shows, obviously. Like, we've done so many of them and they're always fun and the rest of it. But like, if we had the time, I would be doing even more regional shows, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even when there's like 20, 30 people on the really, really odd one-off shows you might do, those people are like, I haven't been to a gig in months, and it's like, that's kind of part of the fun. I remember years ago we did an Aubrey show on like a Tuesday night. There was like 40 people-ish, and it was like so hilarious because it was just the weirdest organized gig, but the people who were there had like the best time. There was people like cartwheeling in the pit and stuff, and it was so much fun. So I really do enjoy those kinds of shows, and playing as many, I guess, non-main city venues and towns as we can, because they're always the ones who tend to go off, and Ballarat being a perfect example, it's easily one of my favorite places to play.
One of the wildest shows I've ever been to was a show in a country town here in Victoria, and some guy had just decided to hire out the local public hall for 2 days. And on the first day, he had kind of alternative bands like Kiss Chasey and Angela's Dish playing, and then on the second day, it was all metal. And I remember like there was so much like people that were there. There was teenagers that had never been to live shows before because bands just didn't come through there, and it was just absolutely wild. And then you had the country vibe of guys doing burnouts in utes on a gravel car park outside as well, so it just really added to it.
I like that. I think one thing that is a little bit harder now, though, and maybe it's just me, is putting on gigs where you can get younger crowds out, like all age gigs and stuff. I feel like the barrier for entry is unfortunately a little bit harder because venues don't want to give up a liquor license for the day or split it up and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it would be really cool, I think, to be able to put some more gigs on that, make it more accessible for those younger kids to get into it.
Definitely. And you're also playing at the Electric Eye Fest in Perth, which I'm actually debating about travelling across to at the moment because I've seen the lineup and I absolutely love it. Tell us a little bit about that fest and how you guys are feeling about being able to play there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, as soon as we sort of got hit up about it, Jess, who brought up the show with us, sort of mentioned her idea of the ideal lineup and all that. We were pretty much sold on the spot. Like, it's absolutely killer. There's bands on there that we've sort of heard of recently, but obviously haven't seen live because we're not, not from Perth and we don't get to go there often. There's bands I absolutely want to check out. And then you've got bands like Chaos Divine who, we've played with maybe like 10 years ago at this point, who are easily, I think, one of the best bands in the country, and being able to share a stage with all them, I think, it's definitely one of the highlights of the tour, personally. Anytime we can go back to Perth, we will absolutely make the effort to do it, even though obviously it's not the easiest thing ever, but everyone's really, really helped out to get us over there and make the effort. So we appreciate it. We're definitely super keen for it. I mean, it's just a sick lineup, and I think it's hard when you're in WA when, you know, any of those bands, if they want to go anywhere else, it's basically going to cost them an arm and a leg to do it. So at the very least, if they can have those cool festivals and bands can, you know, at least come over there and experience that with them, I think it's absolutely worth it.
Definitely. And for our listeners out there, I do have to declare a conflict of interest there as well so we don't get in trouble. Jess does work for Subculture as a photographer who's organising that tour. So, yeah, I do have to let that people know that just in case we don't get in trouble. But, yeah, you know, like you said, like, when we had the lockdowns, it was so difficult for bands to get out there and tour. Have you guys just found that it's felt different when you've been able to get back out there and tour after you couldn't tour for so long?
In terms of the actual shows themselves, no.
Yeah.
I think it honestly just feels like putting on a comfy pair of shoes again. And I know for us, we feel at home on a stage. That's just how it is. So, like, I don't think anything felt any different. The second we got back on a stage, it was immediately like, oh, that's right. That's what this feels like. Putting on gigs, however, I feel like the entire... like the logistics side of it is definitely a lot harder, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Everything's way more expensive. Venues are booked out like 10 months ahead. It's a lot harder to get them going. You know, even just looking at sort of the like logistics sheet for this tour, because obviously there's 2 bands on it and whatnot, and kind of looking at it and going, ooh, okay, cool. Like this is almost twice as much in price as it was, you know, before the last time we toured and all that sort of thing. I think that's just the reality that bands are facing. But the actual experience being on stage and all that, I don't think anything's changed. Crowds are the same. Crowds still care and they want to be there. We want to be there. So I think that's going to continue, I hope.
Yeah.
But I do also understand that, like, the logistics side of it is harder, and people are in a position, especially at the moment with cost of living, where it is harder to justify being able to go out, especially when there are so many gigs on. So we just appreciate every single person who comes out to our shows, because we know that that's, you know, it's not just a off-the-cuff thing. That's a conscious decision to be like, hey, I'm making this my night out and I'm going to go see this band. And like that's still very, very much appreciated, especially after everything that's gone on.
Definitely. And you're doing this off the back as well of this brilliant EP, Portraits. This is one of those EPs where every time a new single comes out off this EP, it is another absolute gem. You guys must be so proud of that EP and just the quality of the tracks on it.
Yeah, it was, look, honestly, we as we've said, even in the press things, it was a very self-indulgent EP. Like, it was done for us. But obviously, why would we do something and pour ourselves into it if we weren't going to let anyone else hear it either, right? So when the idea came together, originally we had this idea years ago, and we're like, oh, what if we did this just like fun collaborative EP where everyone writes their own song and we just try to like put our 2 bobs on everyone else's bits. And then, you know, when we finally revisited it now, it was like, well, with Luke in the band on guitar as our new guitarist, it's his first real foray into writing with us, and maybe we can get some guest vocalists on who are friends of ours and, you know, people that we care about. And so the fact that it sort of became this like much bigger project than we expected it to be kind of made it more stressful, but in a fun way, because it was like, oh, it was this fun little in the jam space idea that's now like, oh, okay, we're doing this thing. And then we obviously teamed up with Anti-Vinyl Vinyl Club, who released it, you know, exclusively on vinyl with us. And it just became a massive, like, fun project that everyone got involved in. And I think it's easily one of my, I think, you know, it's really up there as one of my favorite releases of ours. And I think I speak on everyone's behalf in that regard. It wasn't necessarily like not meant to be, but it's, I think just everything's come up so much better than we even thought it was going to. And the response has been really, really awesome. The songs, now that we've had a chance to play some of them live on that one-off show that we had, it's pretty obvious that the crowd response to the new songs is really cool. So it's like, I'm really looking forward to playing those on an actual tour now.
Do you think you guys will change the way that you write now with that EP doing so well on the track sounding so good? Like you said, people got to write this time around that hadn't written before. Do you think it'll change the way you guys songwrite from now on?
I think if anything, it shows that when we're not in our comfort zone, we still manage to sort of put everything together in a way that works with the band. So I think if anything, it's just kind of opened up a few other doors of like, you know, we tried a few new things that we may not have initially or may not have thought about before. But now those doors is kind of open. So it's like we're in a position where we can let those extra influences in and those extra kind of off to the side styles and ideas permeate through the new stuff that we're writing, which is really cool. So we're always happy to write in the best way that makes us happy, you know, like when someone comes, if that means someone comes in with an entire song and we're just tweaking it, or if we're literally writing a song together from scratch, as long as by the end of it we're all happy with the song and we're all like smiling and excited about it, then I think that's a good thing, and that's sort of what we want to be doing. And this just proves that even when we're doing it in this sort of weird bespoke way, that it also works. So I think it's just like we're still firing on all cylinders, and that's what's exciting.
Definitely. And like the EP has been out for a little while now. Are you guys already starting to work on new material apart from that now as well?
We've been doing a couple of fun things at the moment. Like we actually just released today our cover of Children of Bodom's Hey Crew Death Roll, as it's the 20-year anniversary of that album.
Yep.
So we kind of did a bit of a reimagining of the title track song and released it ourselves. So we put a bit of time in that. I guess probably after the tour, given that there's so much going into that, like the dates in Australia and obviously Japan as well, I think we'll probably get back into writing after that. But at the moment, it's mostly just tour prep, because that just takes a lot longer these days than it used to. Everyone's working, you know, like full-time jobs or in some kind of, you know, career aspect of their lives and all that. So it's not as a quicker process to get together a really like watertight tour-ready set.
Yeah. What was that like, covering such a classic track as well? Like, Children of Bodom are such an awesome band. What was that like, sitting down and actually covering one of their tracks?
Oh, terrifying. Especially when you're doing the vocals and guitar parts, and, you know, they're kind of, you know, Alexi's way of playing is you know, one of the most influential things to my playing, and a lot of other people's listening. So it was daunting, but in a really fun way, because we kind of like did stuff to the song that was, in a way, you know, we kind of Orpheused it up, and we were like, well, if we wrote this song, this would be how I would play this, or this would be a cool idea to interject. So like the heart of the song is definitely there, but I think there's some cool things to hear that you'd be like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that to be in there and all that. So really fun. By the end of it, I think by the time we actually got the masters back for the song, which was done actually at the Finvox Studios, where the original album, was mastered by Mika Usala. He also did the single master. So when we got that back and we heard it sort of in full, it was like, oh, this is actually really fun. This is really sick. So I'm actually really keen if we put it together and play it on the tour. That'd be really cool.
And if people want to take a listen to that, where will they be able to go to take a listen to your cover of Hate Crew Death Roll?
Yeah, at the moment, if you just jump on YouTube and go to our Orpheus Omega channel, it'll be right there. It'll be the first thing that comes up. We're looking to do it as a Spotify release as well, but we thought we'll just release it as a YouTube clip first, because we did a full video clip for it as well. So if you want to check it out, jump on YouTube and look it up there.
Definitely. Well, mate, we're going to take a listen to one of your tracks right now, but what would you like to say to everybody out there before we do that? What would you like to say to people who are thinking about heading along to this amazing tour?
Look, if there's one thing I can get behind, especially being on the road with a band like Triple Kill and the amazing supports that are on this tour, you're not going to be missing a minute of music or be bored or want to leave. Probably eat food before you come, because I'd be surprised if anyone wants to leave the room at any point to get anything else. It's just a really jam-packed tour, and I really do think it's one of those ones that you shouldn't miss, because it's one of the ones that if I wasn't playing in any of the bands, I would be at pretty much as many of the shows as I could be. So I really, really hope to see as many people there as possible, and it's just going to be a super fun tour. That's really the goal that we've got for this, and I hope that's what we get out of it at the end.